Today, we're going to be getting into a blockchain-powered aviation for sustainability and a greener future, safety as well. We've got Kepler Digital's with us here today and the CEO, Yannick. I always like to start these out with a little bit of an introduction. If you could tell us about your background in the aviation industry and your role within Kepler, that would be fantastic.
Okay, so thank you very much, Ryan, for the opportunity. First, this is actually for me, aviation is the passion of my life. I was born in aviation in a way. I like to say that I could pilot an aircraft before I could even drive my car, because where in the country where I'm born, you can be a pilot before being a car driver. So my dad was taking me to the airfield. I was piloting my aircraft, taking my dad in my aircraft, and then after he was taking me back home. So all that to say that it has been in my DNA since the very, very first years of my life. So therefore, obviously I decided to take a career in that field, and so I studied about aircraft engineering. I started to know everything about aerodynamics, propulsion of turbojets, all this type of thing. So I worked, in France, the aerospace industry is quite developed. So I worked in companies such as Dassault Aviation or Aerospatiale. Aerospatiale was the maker of the famous Concorde that everybody remembers, the only civilian supersonic that ever existed so far. I hope that soon we will have a replacement, but this type of industry hosted me at the beginning. Then I went to an airline, so taking care of the maintenance of 737, 747, what we call the line maintenance, making sure that they are ready to fly. So this is where it's a lot of, hype, a lot of adrenaline to make sure that the aircraft can take off on time and in full security. So this is what I did at the beginning of my career. Then I decided to move to operations. So the airline is on an airport. You need to do a lot of things like preparation of everything around the aircraft, load the baggage, load the material inside, make sure that they have enough kerosene to fly to the final destination, making sure the passengers are checked in. This is what we call station manager. So I was taking care of the operations in several airports, and my last one was Nice Airport for Air France, where again I was taking care of Concorde at that time, because Nice Airport is famous to be hosting Concorde in a peak time of the year that is in May. Now Concordes are retired, but the other new aircraft are still flying very intensely there. Then moving to IT. So it was 28 years ago where I moved to IT, and in a company which is now a world leader named Amadeus. This is a B2B, so not so much known by people except when they buy a ticket, but each time that they do an online purchasing on Expedia, or they do an online purchasing on Lufthansa.com, actually the engine behind is Amadeus. But you can also see Amadeus in example in the US when you take a Southwest aircraft. Actually, Southwest is using our IT for customer acceptance and weight and load balance of the aircraft. You have also Amadeus diversified into the airport side of it. So I was just mentioning the airline side of it, but aviation is a bench of players. So the airports, they are obviously using a lot of IT. Example, Houston is using our IT. Kansai in Japan is using IT, our IT. Dubai Airport is using our IT. Heathrow is using our IT. So this is a big company, 5 billion euros of revenues per year. And inside that company, I was already an entrepreneur because I created the airport IT division from scratch. And this is type of adventure that I like, adrenaline that I like, and to make sure that we serve a purpose and we are useful. So this is what I'm trying now to replicate with Kepler for the reason I'm going to explain. But for me, this is basically putting that passion to the service of a new aviation, a safer and a greener aviation, as you said. Why? Because I'm leaving Amadeus. Maybe I look not that young, but I am already, or younger, I don't know. But I'm retiring from Amadeus because at some point in some countries like France, you can retire rather early. But since I have a lot of passion still, I want to help and I want to continue. I don't want to stop working and giving what I know to the society and especially to aviation. So,
yeah. Sorry. No, and I mean, I think like we were mentioning before we started this interview, we could probably have filled a whole 45 or 60-minute segment on your expertise and experience within the airline and aviation industry. I know, Yannick, that you've prepared a couple of slides for us today as we kind of get into this, and I would love if you could maybe walk through it a little bit before we really get into the weeds with you here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thank you. So basically, what Kplay works is going to marry aviation and blockchain to make aviation greener and safer, and to help, at least the ambition, let's be humble, to help the aviation to become greener and safer. There are two, but the pie of aviation is growing. As you see on that slide, if you take the number of passengers transported in 2024, we are talking about 4 billion people per year. So basically a little bit less than half of the world population are taking an aircraft in 2024. And we see in 16 years from now, this number will double. So this is classical aviation, just classical aviation. For 8.1 in 2040, there are the projection that are taken by a lot of sources. In this case, I took Oxford Economics and IATA being the body of the International Airline Transport Association, hosted in Canada, and they project that in spite of ups and downs like COVID affecting that, but people need to travel, they want to travel, they want to see their family. And you've got more people on this planet, and you've got more wealthy people on this planet. So the middle class who didn't have access to aviation before, now they have access. So that's why it's growing that fast and that big. In order to make sure that it works for the longer term and for the next generation, we need to make it greener. We all know that. And you've got a nascent aviation that we call the electric aviation. And here, if you take new types of transportation, like urban air mobility, which is complementing the classical aviation, taking off from an airport and landing on an airport. Here we are talking an aviation that can take off from the center of a city and go to another center of a city. It can go also to an airport, but basically you will have a new types of machines flying over your head in the next years, and the market is nascent, but the prediction are just incredible. Here we are talking about $20 billion of economy carried by this in 2030, and even $1 trillion in 2040. All that are prediction, but my message here: the pie is growing, and this pie is growing. We need to make sure that this is safer and greener, and this is where blockchain can help a lot. And let's explain. Let's go through that in the next minutes.
No, and I think it's really interesting, and I think that nobody's probably better served than you to maybe talk about some of the aviation industry challenges that exist out there right now. But logistics, ticketing, loyalty. One of the things that you and I talked about before, which I would love if maybe you could expand upon, is like the safety issues that happen from OEM manufactured spare parts and things like that go into these airplanes. So walk us through some of the problems that you see out there in the industry historically.
Yeah. So don't get me wrong. Aviation is not unsafe today, but since we are going to double the number of passengers transported plus the emergence of new, we need to make sure that it stays safe and it becomes safer. And I think this is where blockchain can definitely help. Actually, when you take care of an aircraft, you need to make sure that everything which is coming and is mounted on an aircraft, what we call the OEM, so the original equipment manufacturers, they are from the right source, built and manufactured the right way. So therefore, you can start to implement certificates of authenticity, digital twins of the way that it has been done, and making sure this is traceable during this whole life, because you've got a lot of subsidiaries of aircraft manufacturer. So therefore, you need to make sure that at the end of the day, what you mount on your aircraft is actually the right piece of equipment and not something which has been counterfeited somewhere in this world. So it has to be super safe, and the regulatories will ask for that, because today this is rather manual, or you can have a cut in the logistics saying a certain piece is certified, but then after you've got another piece which is you've got a cut of this logistics chain, and then after the rest is not certified. So you need to make sure that you are able to make that from end to end until this is mounted and until the aircraft is taking off. So this is one piece for the logistics. So everything which have to do with spare part of aircraft, spare part of engines, spare part of equipment inside the cockpit, everything which is around. This is one thing. And then after, when you look at the aircraft on an airport, I don't know if you noticed, but you've got more staff and more equipment on the airport. The airport itself is having a lot of traceability to make sure, and blockchain can also help here. If you push back a 747 with this super big engine that we could, the pushbacks engines, and the tow bars, you need to make sure that it doesn't crash and it doesn't go into the aircraft, bumping it. So this is something that needs also to be secured and better secured. So the equipment is a very important piece of what we can secure on blockchain. In the green aviation, also you've got new pieces that now we start to see everywhere in the electrical industry that we call batteries. So batteries needs to be also traced and make sure that they are mounted, and they need to be recharged in the right way and remounted on the flying device. So all that is super important to trace. This is an example. I can take another example, which would be sorry for the number of example word that I take, but the training. Around this aircraft, you see a lot of people. They need to be certified, because you don't touch an aircraft that you would touch your bicycle. You need to make sure that you don't do silly things, or you know what you are doing on an aircraft. So there is a certain number of certification you need to have. Today they are given, or they are stamped by what we call IATA, which is the association that I was mentioning, and also some other people like ACI, Airport Council International. So they need to make sure that they are not fake. Today, in some countries, including in France, you find wrong doctors, you find wrong dentists, you find wrong engineers. You can have a diploma that says that you are graduated from a very prestigious university, but at the end, this is invented. So by applying blockchain, you can also make sure that you have a traceability of the people that are going around, and they have the right education, the right training, and the right to take care of an aircraft. So these are examples that we can take. So blockchain will increase transparency, will increase traceability, will increase safety, not only of green aviation, but also of classical aviation. We have seen.
I'm curious, Yannick, for when you talk about the process that some of these parts go through to go into aircraft. I mean, is it where does the automation stop and it gets put in the hands of a person just to grab a box or grab X, Y, and Z with a part number on it to say that it's been maintenanced, and what's the tag look like and things like that? And I'm assuming, and maybe I'm incorrect here, that some of these processes have probably been put in place for almost decades to an extent, and how many issues occur on a normal basis, because it's obviously you're dealing with people's lives, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So process, of course, aviation from the very beginning had to put process in place. If not, we would not be able to be the safest way of transporting people. At the end, when you look the ratio of death by number of people transported and hours of flying, this is the lowest one, lower than even walking in the street. So that's why I was saying aviation is safe today. It's even the safest way of transport. Nevertheless, it's growing, as you saw. And the more it's growing, the more you can have leaks into that process. So therefore, blockchain will help tighten in this. So believe it or not, but you would see a lot of manual marine intervention on an aircraft by the fact that an aircraft, when it gets out of the aircraft manufacturer, has the number of parts. It's like a big puzzle. But during the life cycle of 30 years, 40 years on an aircraft, you change a lot of things on site. You change engine, you change the pieces of the cell, you change the pieces of the brakes, you change. So at the end, it doesn't look at all the same as it was when it got out of the factory. So therefore, all these pieces has to be followed as well to make sure that the puzzle is known, every single part is identified and is the right one to be, and has the right to be on it. Well, you are not ignoring the issue that aviation is facing. So they are very public, very vocal, very everywhere in the press when there is an incident. But I'm not going to mention the one that we have seen over the past months. But yes, it does exist. So the bigger the pie will be, the bigger the number of incidents will be. So we better make sure that we even strengthen that a little bit more. So therefore, the manual thing, when you engage human being, and this is still the case, and you still see human beings at the airport or taking care of your aircraft, because you need to sort out things. AI can help, by the way, but at the same time, you need to make sure that people are doing at the right moment the right thing. So this is about traceability of the process, if you want. So all that can be helped by blockchain, definitely.
And I'm curious from your stance, because I know and across various industries right now, traditional industries, I'm thinking like the banking industry, financial services, things like that, we're seeing a push towards ESG and sustainability. And there's all these kind of milestones that lead us out to, 2025, 2030, even as far as 2050. Is that occurring right now in the aviation industry? And I guess the question I have really is like, how does the aviation industry get there to their sustainability goals without integrating portions of technology that make a lot of the processes a lot more seamless?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Actually, not in my white paper, but I can explain. Aviation needs to be carbon neutral in 2050. So this is the goal that has been assigned to aviation. It's aviation is a portion between, from my memory, between 4 and 5% of the worldwide emission. So it's not that big, if you want. But it's very visible. Yeah. So there is something that needs to be done. So electric aviation is one of them, but you don't have only this. You have other changes that are happening in aviation. Example, the electric for the short range type of aircraft, but you've got now a change of propulsion with hydrogen, which is also coming. You've got the SAF, which is the sustainable aviation fuel, which is a fuel made from the garbage, recycling of the carbon, which are already be consumed for other purposes. So actually, the neutrality in aviation can only be obtained when you have all of that put together, and not only electric. So it will one piece of the gap. You even have aerodynamics, and I love this. So I would love to help there. The way that the aircraft will be designed, their wings, the way that they are going to be designed. I was discussing with a specialist at Airbus where the wings will be shaped differently in the future to be more efficient. So you already noticed in the Dreamliner 787, the tip of the wings are completely different than the one that we are used to see. What we call the winglets, the same with the Airbus 350. So they are making a lot of studies to make sure that it's happening the right way. My dream, and I think as an aerodynamician originally, that you could have retractable wings at some point, but we can talk about during hours about what it means, because the quicker you fly, the less wing you need. Yeah. So if you if you remember well, the supersonic jet, they have smaller wings than the subsonic jets. So therefore, imagine an aircraft who would take off as a subsonic, and then after going very fast and getting smaller wings.
Yeah.
On the road, but it's completely different subject. Now we are deviating from.
No, that's fine. I mean,
you notice the passion in what I'm saying here.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that probably hits home, a couple of things that probably hit home to everybody. Number one is whenever you're flying and your luggage gets lost, and it's amazing to me that in 2024, we still land in an airport wondering if our luggage is going to be a baggage claim or not. And just simple solutions that you can integrate, with blockchain for even the tracking of things like luggage, things like that. I want to get into some of the use cases. I know that we lost probably a good 7 to 8 minutes there whenever I totally had a blackout here. But some of the use cases that you guys can kind of see as an immediate potential win in the airline industry that Kepler is going to be bringing to the table.
Well, what I can say by experience with, people know that I'm going retired and they know what I'm doing. So I've been approached already by several people saying, okay, what we are very, very interesting. And example, the equipment manufacturer. So what I was saying before, especially on the battery side, to make sure that from scratch they include a blockchain follow-up into that. So it's going to be one of the short-term applicability that we can do. The other thing that I'm seeing very obvious is what I said before. It's the diplomas, the credentials to be able to touch an aircraft, because the more people you will have around, the more difficulty you will have to make sure that the person that here have the right training. You need to trace their training, the refresher of their training, the history of their training, because once you have been certified, it's like a driving license when you got it 20 years ago. But the code of conduct changed completely. You need to have a refresher. Do we do that when you drive a car? No. But when you need to take care of an aircraft, you have to do that. Because it's a different way to manage an aircraft now that it was 20 years ago, and more sensitive things you need to take care of. So all that is the first immediate. You see the ground handling is the picture that you have on the bottom left. Yeah, so the ground operation. Thank you. So this is all this material here. Yeah, so you can. Maybe on the picture I can
find it. Oh yeah, I'll stay on the picture.
Yeah. So basically, this is to say that you have an aircraft, and this is what you see when you board the aircraft. But all this material, all these people are engaged into the fact that you take off safely. So all these people around, all this material needs to be traced and making sure they can be followed up correctly, and you don't use the wrong mechanics or the wrong push bar when you take care of that aircraft. So this is what, in my view, is going to be blockchain before. In the AM service provider, we will have to, since this is new, you will have to report the flyability of the aircraft to the authorities. In the classical aviation world, you have already some processes, as you said before, over the past 30, 40 years. But this new aviation, it's green in a way that it's a blue ocean. Everything needs to be invented. So when you invent something, this is the opportunity to do it right from the very beginning. And since we have now technologies like blockchain, married with AI or even metaverse, I can explain how we do that. This is definitely something that I'm talking to several aircraft manufacturers. I don't want to disclose any name here because I'm very prudent, but you should see the next, let's say, 2 months, some shaking hand with some of them.
That's awesome. And I mean, when you get into credentialing, I know, obviously, Kepler and Galileo have, a partnership as well. And what they're kind of doing to kind of merge the physical and digital. And it gets into kind of the digital identity aspects and verifying things on chain. Is that where you kind of see this combination through credentialing? Because, if you guys can see the image down here, I mean, Yannick brings up a super good point, which is look at the amount of people that touch, the aircraft, or that touch the maintenance, or that touch the whatever it may be before before they're an aircraft's given the green light to lift off and things like that. And is that, you talk about that kind of being an immediate win, and obviously you kind of need platforms that already exist and the technology that's already been tested out, the importance of things like that. If you could maybe dive into that relationship that you have with Galileo just a little bit to figure out where there's crossover, that'd be cool.
Yeah, it is important. So you notice that the CEO of Galileo had the same last name as mine. Yeah. So because he's my son, he's as passionate as me in the different industry, in the luxury industry, and his dad is in the aviation industry. So basically what I'm taking advantage of, and that's why we can take off earlier than somebody who starts from scratch. We take a lot of their expertise and technology in blockchain. So when I was an advisor, I am an advisor to Galileo, and when I started to see the use cases and what they were developing, I was thinking myself, oh, but this is something that I was trying to solve for aviation. So this is all that started. So let's take now the common use cases between Galileo and Kepler. In the past, what I was explaining was what we call B2B, so business to business. We are going to help a manufacturer, to help ground handling companies, to help. This is what the blockchain B2B is. But you can think about blockchain B2B2C, or business to consumer. In Galileo, when you buy a luxury good and you have digital twins to make sure that your Louis Vuitton bag is not counterfeited, actually the same B2C, the same customer is going to take an aircraft at some point. If you take UAE, for instance, or if you take some places where people are taking helicopters today to go to the airport, in the future they will take eVTOLs, so the electric helicopters. And they just bought a nice luxury good on the marketplace of Galileo. So they will enjoy as well a blockchain e-ticket. So meaning that for them, this is the fact to use blockchain as part of digital twins, as part of their life process, will be natural. So you will have, if you want, an adherence between the two economies, the aviation economy and the luxury economy, by the fact that the customers are expecting the same. Why should I have a paper ticket or even an e-ticket, classical e-ticket, when I have a digital twin for my watch? No, I'm expecting also a blockchain boarding pass. Yeah. So this is where, if you want, you have join the use cases that are going to be adherent between each other. And the utility of the token that we have can enable access to example, one of the two. So the utility token of Leox for Galileo can give access to the ones to the products, the B2C products of Kepler, and vice versa. So this is where if you imagine the adherence on the B2C side, this is quite an immense way with the number of people that aviation will transport. All that can be replicated and replicated. Yeah,
it's always, I mean, it's interesting to watch, and I've felt like this for a while in this space, to watch some of the platforms that have been built with, like, I don't want to say that seem to be built for like singular use cases, but when you step back and understand what the platform actually does, like the underlying technology. So like when I'm thinking about like even what Galileo's built, unique digital IDs, right? For secure verified assets. Galileo obviously focusing on luxury goods and tokenization and kind of merging physical and digital. But when you talk about what's underlying there with unique digital IDs for verifiable assets, it doesn't have to necessarily be a luxury good. It can be credentialing for individuals that are certified to make sure that they can maintenance X, Y, and Z parts of an aircraft. They can make sure that the parts themselves, are up to code. It can make sure that the aircraft itself has been made. Like there's all sorts of things that you can tie in to kind of merge the physical and the digital and just use the technology and the platforms. And to step back a little bit, maybe as a sidebar, like I think that this is similar to what we're seeing across like even some of these platforms that are doing DeFi and things like that in this space. Like I'm always thinking like, okay, so it's great that they've built this, but like, what are the BlackRocks and Franklin Templetons of the world? Like, are they going to build their own platforms? Are they going to kind of pick and choose what some of these other people have already kind of built and maybe even like use white labeled versions of them?
It's a good example. His example, what do we do with mileage? DeFi can be helping mileage. Imagine 2 seconds today when you miss your aircraft and you complain to the airline because you've been disrupted, whatever. They give you mileage, right?
Yep.
Why can't they give you compensation via blockchain?
Yeah.
It seems so natural. Yeah. So
it seems like rewards points and loyalty might be an easy win too.
Yeah. They can be blockchain, definitely. It's I need to explain something. Kepler doesn't want to be the only one on this. So I like the fact that it's going to be an industry pioneer, an industry obviously, but I don't want to be alone. I want other industry to believe in it and to work with us. That's why we help. We have a platform to help, because we want to sponsor people who are sharing the same belief that we are sharing. So we have a launchpad, for instance, to help people who are not super used to what it is to go on the blockchain, to help them. So I don't want to be alone. So I'm not pretending to have the truth for everything. I just want to be a helper and energetic helper. This is what I want to say. Thank you for bringing these ones.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you before what I think is really interesting, and obviously Genfinity media partners with both Kepler and Galileo. I'll preface it, but we had an advisory call, and one thing that I always think is interesting in the blockchain space is that a lot of people in blockchain are kind of the same people in blockchain, and it's all okay. There's a lot of different networks, but it's kind of the same people. And it's always like, how do you get outside of the echo chamber? How do you get outside of the silos of the people that are already here? And I think that you guys have kind of a really interesting advisory board and relationships that aren't already in blockchain. And at the end of the day, that's kind of the point. It's like, if blockchain is going to be mass adopted, it can't just be the same people that have been here talking about blockchain since 2009 or since 2015 or 2018 or whenever it is. Talk a little bit about the team and the supporters that you guys have behind Kepler, because I think it's really interesting and it's something we don't see a lot.
Yeah. So thank you very much for that. So basically what we are saying here, we are in the real world asset segment. Yeah? So we are addressing something which is in the real world, and this is what we do. But so therefore we have people coming from the real world. So you see Brede, John and Fred. So they have 3 different expertise, but they are all super senior in aviation. Let's take the middleman, my friend John Jarrell. John Jarrell is a US citizen. He's based in Atlanta. He used to be my boss, by the way, in Amadeus, and he's currently a captain on Flagjet, on Challenger 300 and 350. He has a bench of experience in aviation in all aspects. And today he's a pilot, so he knows what it is about mounting something on his aircraft that is not sure of. So you understand now the logistics side of it, but far beyond that, he's super IT man, and he used to be also a pilot of the US Air Force in the past. So I think he brings me, if you want, I am European. You can sense this in my accent. So obviously, and he's my US specialist of what aviation, because you've got two main poles in aviation, Airbus and Boeing. If you want, is Boeing, I am Airbus, to make it short. Yeah. So it brings me this experience in aviation, plus being a pilot on a jet. So Brede Nilsen on the left used to be the CIO of 43 Airport in Norway. Why Norway? Because Norway is very known for the electric dimension they put in everything they do. Nearly half of the car fleet in Norway are actually electric cars. So they sponsor a lot. The airlines over there, they are very much about electric aviation. So you've got a very short haul flight because this is a big country, but they have a lot of little airport to feed, and they are going to be one of the first country to adopt electric aviation big scale. So Brede is with me as well. Fred Meyer is a specialist of ground handling. So the picture which you've seen all these people around. He has been working on that for the past 20-25 years. So he has training schools as well, where we could apply the certificates of diploma. And this is very important. More will come because you will see more actually. But again, I keep that for me for the time being. And I will add more industry people here. Then you've got the blockchainers. I love them equally. So they are the specialists of blockchain, much more than me, and they are applying the technology. Kushal, for instance, is the one developing for Galileo. Andrea is based in India. Andrea is based in Philippines, and Zach is based in Orlando. So very multinational. Ecosystem needs to be built because this is the piece that I master less than the aviation. What all this ecosystem that you have in blockchain? So together with Pierre, Nat, and Kush, Zach, and Andrea, and with KF as well, with going to be pictured very soon. Based in Canada, they help me with this ecosystem that I don't know less than. The people like yourself, Ryan, but also the other people who are part of the communities on blockchain. So they are the specialists for that.
Yep, and I think we've got a couple minutes left here, and I'll go past the stop point because I know we probably lost about 5 or 7 minutes. And I know we're going to be doing more of these as well. I want to kind of get into something like just maybe briefly, but I know that you guys are incorporated out in France as well, and we don't see a lot of blockchain companies in France. Can you talk about? And I know obviously from the accent, I can probably tell that's where you're at. But I mean, talk about why France and maybe how you guys from Kepler are planning to kind of tackle some of the really, I guess, fragile regulatory landscapes that might exist out there in the world.
Yeah. So why France? First of all, so you notice my accent, but also France is a country where you can access all the other European countries with less than 1 hour and a half flying. So it's like being in the US, by the way. Yeah. So when I want to talk Norway for the green, I take an aircraft and I go there. When I want to go to Farnborough next week, I go to the UK at the same time. When I want to talk about pre-feeding of eVTOLs between Monaco and Nice Airport, I am next door. So if you want, you have a lot of it's a lot of small countries with different characteristics where you can apply different technology or sub-technology of blockchain. So this is quite interesting. And the second thing that is important, this is one of the center of expertise of aviation in the world. So we have access to a lot of expertise. It's in an easy way on the aviation side. The blockchain side is less developed, but Switzerland, which is you've got. This is like the paradise of blockchainers. And it's from my home. It's 1 hour flying and 6 hours driving. So I am in the middle. So the only thing in France, which is we are maybe a little bit more taxed, but okay, I have to live with this. But from if you want a rich point of view, the fact I can reach a lot of expertise, lots of use cases, lots of different applicability. I think France is not a bad geography to be for what we are doing in blockchain. Huh? So aviation in blockchain.
And I've got a couple left for you, Yannick. Here, I guess competitive advantage. Are there any competitors out there in blockchain that are trying to do what you guys are doing right now that kind of come to mind? And I know you mentioned this, by the way, so I'm not trying to like have like the name call out type stuff, because you directly stated you don't want to be the only ones doing this. You want other people to start kind of value adding into the aviation industry, because you truthfully, I mean, with your decades of experience in the industry, you know that it's actually going to help. But maybe talk us through just briefly competitive advantage, and then we'll get into roadmap and close out with visions of the future here.
If you look at the industry, you don't have. So we are the first one of this nature. We have white papers coming from big IT players on blockchain, so which give credibility that this is needed. If you look at papers written by IATA, by ACI, by CETA, even by Amadeus, huh? But the thing today that they face is the fact that they need to replace something that works very well for a lot of people. So 8 billion passengers being boarded. So for them to change, and that with blockchain, it's more difficult to take as a decision, because they need to feed their bottom line and they need to feed the top line in terms of revenue. So for us, we don't have this burden. So we have this is pioneering, and I have not seen anybody trying to do the same. But I would welcome, honestly, I would welcome if. The pie is growing, so how can I fill the pie? I cannot fill the pie. I need more. Or you give me 2,000 people to work tomorrow, maybe I can fill the pie, but for the time being, it's not the case. So there will be place for everybody. So we are dynamic, we are multicultural, we are multi-geographical position. We can take quick decisions. So this is what a startup is about. So this is USP. All startup can be like this, and plus something that you need to be passionate. You don't give up. You are going to face hurdle. We don't give up. We make it again, and we don't fail. We learn. This is what Mandela was saying, by the way. So,
yeah. And then as we close out here, Yannick, and I know we're going to be doing more of these, and again, apologies for the blackout. Personal visions for the future, and if you could tell us where Kepler's at right now. You kind of allude to, but keeping close to the chest, maybe some other relationships that you guys are forming behind the scenes here. But tell us where you guys are at right now, and what you're kind of looking forward to in let's say the near term.
Yeah. So we have issued, and you can find it on the internet, a 5 years plan. So this is we have a vision for 5 years. So we are constituting the company now. We are recruiting people. We are making sure that we can have the right funds in order to start and to invest. So we do that. We don't start from scratch, and thanks to Galileo. Thank you, Galileo, for that. I took my nickname. So these people are the famous aviators. Yeah, Wilbur Wright was the first one to fly in 1903 with a guided aircraft in the US. So all these years are describing what we are doing. Now the end game, or let's say, I can say that I will be happy to say we serve the purpose. Is if I take a 10 years vision, if we don't do triple-digit million per year of revenues, I would be disappointed. I did that in the past. So actually, this is not the first enterprise that I created. So I created in the past something that is now making 500 million euros that I left. But this is something which is important for me to make sure that the next generation will have something that their family can live from. And this is what my vision is. So in 10 years, I'd like to be at 100 million euros of revenue per year. This is my target.
Well, we certainly appreciate your time today. For those that are still here with us, I want to make sure I flag, if you guys are interested in checking out the technology that Kepler is bringing to the table, again, blockchain-powered aviation for a sustainable future, you can go to keplerdigitals.io, or you can check out their X account, which is at Kepler Digitals. And Yannick, looking forward to bringing you guys on in the future as well. And we'll be bringing Galileo on as well. Looking forward to kind of the convergence of the technologies, and to I'll be paying attention, because I always hear people say, got a couple of maybe things that are kept close to the chest, but the next couple of months I'll be watching to see what types of announcements you guys making too, and we'll make sure we report on them from Genfinity's aspect. So thank you so much, Yannick, and I really appreciate your time today.